Hi everyone, and thanks for watching or tuning into my video. I'm actually doing a commission piece now in this video for a customer who wanted a farmhouse looking color bar. And so this buffet just worked out to be the perfect height for that, and was in really good shape. We didn't have to do much repairs or anything, just a few little fixes, but to the drawers as usual. But first I cleaned it really well inside and out, and right now I'm priming it with white shellac to seal it all in. And I also end up having to do 3 coats of the chalk paint on this. And I used the Behr's flat white paint and mixed it with the calcium carbonate. You use 4 tablespoons of calcium carbonate and mix that with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of very warm or hot water, and it should make a pretty thick paste. And once you have that mixed up well, you just stir it into the paint. And I keep stirring the paint as I paint also. I usually leave a stir stick in the paint or shake the bottle as I'm using it, but it works really well for me. And also on this piece, I really like to paint the inside of my pieces. It's very rare that I don't paint the inside. The only time I don't is if a customer requests that I not paint the inside. They want it left original. And on this piece, since this was going into a shop, I painted the back also. A lot of times I will paint the back of pieces if they look really stained or gnarly or just stains on them. To make them look better, I will also paint that. If it's a nice looking back, then sometimes I'll leave it. But this going into a shop, I thought this way she can spin it around and use both sides of it. Okay, I'm adding some clay mold accent pieces that I've made on this, and I have other videos that really go into more detail on this. They're a lot of fun to use, and they really add a lot of really pretty detail to pieces. And I use paper clay with cornstarch in the molds so they don't stick, especially where you have a really deep or recessed mold. It makes them come out so much easier. And you can buy many of these molds pre-made, like you can see some here on the top of this. I have I have some ones that I have bought from Prima and also from Iron Orchid and even other manufacturers. But the one here right in front of me is the purple one, is a homemade one that I made off of a piece of furniture that I redid. And I thought it would just be perfect for this piece, just to add a little bit of style to it. And they're so fun to use, and some of my other videos actually show how to make these molds from the silicone putty, so you might want to check those out. One thing I do here is sometimes when I'm doing a large mold, I will actually put it on the back of a mold so that I can then just easily place it in place on my piece, because once you rub that Elmer's glue onto the back of the mold, and especially I like to try to do it when I have at least one coat of the clay-based paint on the piece. That mold is really going to stick on there. So you want to make sure it's close to where you want it to be. You can move it slightly, but you want to really make sure it's close to where you want it to be. And sometimes if you have a really big mold, sometimes, because it can be a little heavy when it's wet, because it will lighten up as it dries, but sometimes if you're placing a really large clay mold that you've just made on a piece, you will need to use some kind of painter's tape or masking tape to make sure that it stays in place, because the weight of it sometimes can pull it down. But I like to put the Elmer's glue on the back of it, and you can even let that on a bigger piece sit in the open air just for a little bit, so the Elmer's glue kind of tacks up, and then when you put it on, it will stick much better. But I do make sure that the glue is covering every square inch of the back of that mold. And I've had, like I say, really good luck with these. They are as durable as actual wood decals. Okay, I am still finishing up with adding the little keyhole onto the mold, onto the piece. And once I get done with adding these molds on and they dry, I'm going to actually do my second and third coat of the white chalk paint. And because I like to give the molds at least 2 coats of the chalk paint, because actually what makes them so durable is painting them and sealing them. That's what really makes them get really hard and be strong. And you can use pre-bought molds from, I know the company Wood You Been makes some incredible appliques, decorations that you can add to pieces, and you can heat them to bend them around pieces. And you can also use resin for the molds, but I know that the Wood You Been pieces are really, they're pretty expensive if you use a lot of molds on furniture. If you're only doing a few, it's not too bad, but you just have to consider the cost into your piece. If you feel like you can get that back out of it, then by all means use whichever method is easier for you. The resin is nice too, because you can bend them as long as you do it right when you make it, but I just find the clay to be the easiest for me, because I can shape it around corners, bends, curves, whatever. It doesn't matter what shape of the piece, and it's very economical to use. And the molds you can use over and over again, so I really like that about them. And right now you can see I'm painting my coats of the chalk paint on, and with white or any light color that you paint a piece, you're always going to have a minimum of 2 coats, and sometimes 3 or even 4. So with white, especially, you're always going to have at least probably 3 coats on a piece, even if you prime it like I did on this piece with a white shellac. It just takes that much to really get a good solid coverage. And I like to do that because when you go to distress it, which I was planning on doing on this piece because she wants it distressed, when you distress the edges, if it really has a solid coverage of the white, the distressing just shows up so much better. Here's a really cute farmhouse stencil that I've put on the front, middle, and I actually wanted to do some little words to add on to here for her, just to make it a little bit more personal. And what I did was I just stamped some letters onto some white tissue paper, and I'm just going to decoupage it onto the piece because the words are small. And then that way it will get sealed whenever I put the sealer on next. I'm using Varathane water-based sealer to seal. This is the first of 2 coats I'm going to do all over, inside and out. And I also used 2 coats of Dixie Belle Gator Hide on the top. And then I distressed it with 180 grit sandpaper and used clear wax, Varathane clear wax all over, just to seal the rough wood edges. And you'll see it here in just a second how pretty it turned out. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video, and if you like this type of video, please like and subscribe and share, and thank you for watching.